everyone, Mr. Tapley here to walk you through our next lesson of Year 9 Humanities in Term 2, Week 10. So this lesson we are introducing the CAT, the Economics CAT, your final assessment for Term 2 for Semester 1, and we'll be looking at the instructions, looking at where to find all the resources you need, talking about the due date for the CAT, etc, etc. And if you have any questions about the video or about the CAT itself, please let me know as soon as possible via email or Google Classroom, or hopefully we'll be back at school so you can let me know in person. So, first of all, I suppose I should say where is this found. So you can see I've made a CAT file in Compass for students who are struggling with Google Classroom. I've also made one in Google Classroom. It's not going to be showing up in Google Classroom right away, so at the time I'm recording this video it's not going to be there, but it will be scheduled to appear in your Google Classroom under assignment. You can see there, Semester 1 CAT, Research Report, Economics, and you've got both the files there that I'll be going through. So what is your CAT? In this assessment you'll be investigating an economic issue relating to consumption, production of products in Australia, the national global economy, and living standards. So the main topics that we looked at in economics in Term 2: globalization, living standards, circular flow model, how we make things, etc, etc. So you've got three options for the CAT. Select one of the topics below. Research the economic issue using the 3 R's of research, which is reliable research, relevant research, so it's actually connected to the topic, and then recent sources. In university, they consider something to be recent if it's within 10 years of the current date. So anything from 2010 to 2020, that's considered recent. And then you record your research in the research grid that we will provide you with, same as the history CAT. You guys did a good job with those, so we've rolled it into the economics CAT. So you've got 3 topics to look at for the CAT. So you can either look at fair trade chocolate, coffee production, or clothing workshops. So basically you've got 3 products, 3 goods that are being produced around the world, and you'll be looking at what is the good, who produces it, how do we produce it, what do we need to make it, and then how has globalization and global supply chains impacted that product. So you can do a bit of research on these beforehand to select your topic, or you can pick one that you feel interested in. Mr. Tapley loves his chocolate and his coffee, so he's torn between 2 topics there. Yeah, so you got one option. Using your research, you will answer a set of questions evaluating your understanding of the key topics examined in Term 2 Economics. So you can see here it's not an essay, it's not a presentation, you've actually just got a set of questions that you need to answer about your topic. The CAT will be completed during week 10 and 11 across multiple lessons to break down the assessment into smaller, manageable steps. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Don't let me know the night before, the day before, a minute before the CAT is due. Let me know as soon as the problem occurs. That way I know about it earlier so we can come to a solution together. And that way you'll be less stressed out, because instead of stressing over the weekend like, oh, Mr. Tep's going to be so pissed when I tell him I can't finish my CAT in time, you can say the weekend, oh, I know what I have to do, Mr. Tep's giving me extension, or etc. So I'll go through these questions one by one. Before I do that though, I should show you the research grid, because that'll be the first step of your CAT. The first, what do we call them? Manageable step, manageable stages, is going to be obviously researching your topic so that you can then answer the questions. So this should look familiar because it looks like your history research grid. So basically you're going to be using this grid in the first probably 2 lessons we'll give you for the research grid. First 2 or 3 lessons, record sources of information about your selected product. So you'll be either researching fair trade chocolate, coffee production around the world, or I wrote clothing workshops. We initially discussed just doing like a specific item of clothing, but I'm just going to write clothing. So research your topic and put it into the research grid. Just like with the history CAT, the dev, your research grid, was actually part of your final score for your CAT. So if you didn't do very well in the dev, or like a number of students, you didn't actually do the dev, that impacted your final score on the CAT. So it's part of your CAT for economics. You get 1 mark allocated for correct referencing, so has everything been listed out using nice bibliographic details. and then you'll get 1 mark depending on whether each source you've put in, so 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of information, is legit. We've given you a bit of help this time, so the website, Cite This For Me, got Mr. Tapley through uni. It's a very useful website for bibliographies, for researching. Basically, you just need to enter in the details of the website or book or article or newspaper or whatever, and it will immediately, you just press a button, it goes boom, and then it gives you the correct citation, and you just copy that into your table here. And also, several resources have been provided in the Research Starter Pack, just to get you started with your research, in case you're like, oh, I don't even know where to begin with this. So you can see I've got a couple of videos and an article for chocolate and coffee, another article for coffee, love my coffee, and then a couple of fashion ones down here, or clothing ones. So that's the first step. You'll spend 1 or 2 lessons, probably 2 or 3 if we're being honest, working on our research grid, and then we'll be able to do these questions here. I do want to stress, put in a good effort for the research grid. 1, because it's part of your CAT. It's literally part of your CAT. It's worth, what's my math look like? 5 out of 30 marks is 1/6 of your final CAT score. No one correct me on that. And a lot of people did lose marks in their essays for history just because they didn't either attempt the dev at all, they didn't attempt the research grid, or they didn't put a lot of effort into it because they're like, nah, dev test, it's not the CAT, I don't really care. This is part of your CAT, so please put some effort into it. Or if you don't understand it, please ask me a question. So, using your research, and then the quality of your research will also be impacting your ability to answer these questions properly. So if I do crap research, I'm going to have crap answers because I'm not going to have all the information. Anyway, I'll go through the CAT questions now. So question 1, pretty straightforward. We've given you a couple of easy questions just to try and find you some free marks. Question 1, in 1 or 2 sentences, explain why you have selected this specific topic. So if I was Mr. Tapley, which I am, I would say I selected fair trade chocolate. 1, because I'm a chocolate enthusiast, and 2, I don't really know what that means, fair trade. I've heard that word before, I've heard that phrase before, but I don't really know what that means. So I'm interested to see what it means. Is it a company? Is it like a special box they have to do to like get it ticked off as fair trade? So that's why I'm selecting that topic. Question 2. Explain how purchasing this product would impact an individual's living standards. So if we remember our economics slides, living standards are located down here in slide 17. We talk about how living standards are connected to economics, the different types of living standards, how we measure living standards with GDP and HDI. So those are the slides and the where are we? Those are slides that will help you with that question there. Explain how your product is impacting an individual's living standards. It might not be impacting living standards at all, and that's okay, you can say that. But how would purchasing coffee impact someone's living standards? How would purchasing clothing impact their living standards? Think about how it would impact you personally. So 2 marks there. So you're probably going to be saying 2 to 3 sentences in that section there. That's a good rule to use in tests in the future, however many marks it is. Think about how long you're going to spend on it and also how many sentences it's going to be. So the rule is usually like multiply it by 2. So if it's a 2-mark question, 3 or 4 sentences. If it's a 1-mark question, 2 sentences, etc. Anyway, just a little teacher tip from Tom Tapley. Alliteration. Question 3. Using the table below, list 3 factors of production that are used to produce your product and explain how these factors are used in the production process. So obviously I will get 3 marks for listing 3 factors, and then I'll get another 3 marks for explaining how they are used in the production process. So if I was doing t-shirts or clothing, and I said, well, you need cotton because that's actually what the t-shirts are made of. If I just wrote cotton and I wrote nothing there, I'd only get 1 mark. And if you're looking for the 3 factors of production that we looked at in economics, those are a bit further back, kind of over with the circular flow model. Here we are. So to make any product, so to make coffee, chocolate, or clothing, you'll need land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So you can select 3 out of those 4. I'd probably recommend land, labor, and capital. Enterprise is a bit, don't need that. But you'll need things that are coming out of the land. You'll need natural resources to produce your products. You'll need labor, so you can talk about the different workers involved in producing your product. And you'll need capital, so what sort of machinery, tools, buildings, warehouses, etc. are used. Even something like a truck or a plane or a ship. Those are tools, machinery being used in your production process. So you pick 3 factors of production for your specific product, and you explain how they are used in the process of making coffee, of making chocolate, of making etc. I had no idea how chocolate was made. I was way off. If you had told me this is what chocolate looks like at the start of the process, I would have been like, nah, don't believe you. Fake news. Sad. Alright, halfway through now. It's only 7 questions, and we are giving you multiple lessons to work on this. And once you have the research, usually starting is the worst part, so if you spend 2 or 3 lessons on the research, the questions themselves will probably take much less time. Anyway, question 4. Explain how the production of your product influences the economy of the nation in which it is produced. So not where they're selling it, but where they're making it. So for example, how does the production of cars in America, big companies like Ford, not Holden, that's an Australian company, I can't think of any other car companies, that's embarrassing. How does this production of cars influence the American economy? In your response, reference production, income, and purchasing within the circular flow model. So for example, how does the production of coffee, your product, in the economy of the nation in which it is produced, let's say Brazil, how does that impact businesses in Brazil? How does it impact households in Brazil? How does it impact the government of Brazil? And if you're looking for that circular flow stuff, we're actually on it. So it's like slides 8 to 13, I believe. Yep. So for this question, you could go through each of these slides individually and say, okay, so how does my product impact consumers and workers? So it would obviously provide the consumers with a product to consume, and it would obviously give those laborers a job. So people in Brazil, a lot of people would be employed working as coffee farmers. How does it impact the producers? Maybe there are a lot of Brazilian coffee companies. I honestly don't know. How it would impact the government if they're creating money, creating wages in that nation. It's going to give the government more taxes, the ability to cause more taxes so they can provide us with these services. So that's question 4. You're looking at the circular flow model, and then you're trying to sprinkle in these 3 terms here. So production will obviously, hopefully come up at some time in your answer. Income and purchasing. So there's 3 things there, and they kind of relate to one part of the circular flow model each. Production would be the producers, obviously, the businesses. Purchasing would be the consumers, and then income's kind of sprinkled along all 3 of them. Anyway. So that's a 6-mark question, so we'd be expecting a pretty detailed response there. So you'd probably get 3 marks for how you discuss each part of the circular flow model, so business, households, government, and then you get those extra 3 marks by not just describing what's happening, but explaining. So the level of detail will impact whether you get full marks for that question. Doing a lot of hand symbols. I've had a lot of coffee today. Question 5. Describe the global supply chain of this product. Use the link provided to create an annotated world map to illustrate your answer. 4 marks. So, global supply chain is way down. Oh, that was convenient. Down here in slide 35. So basically, it's the network of suppliers. So all the resources are being made by these different people, and then they're going across the world to end up with your final product. So for this question here, you need to find the global supply chain of your product. It'll be kind of difficult to find some of that information for just general products. So for this question here, I recommend you look up the global supply chain of a specific company. You don't have to, but that's just my advice to me. After I attempted to do like a little rough draft of this myself, and I had trouble with this question here. So I recommend you look up a specific company. Like if you're doing coffee, you could look up what is the global supply chain of Starbucks. Or if you're doing chocolate, you could look up what is the global supply chain of Nestle, of Cadbury, something like that. That's just my advice to you. And what you're doing is trying to find where the production starts. So what's the first step in making chocolate? And it's going to be happening in this country, in this supplier. And then the next step, I'm going to go on my world map to this country. And next step, next step, next step. And you can use this cool little website here, mapfling.com. Not a great name, but this is what it looks like. So all you actually have to do is enter in, okay, so the first step of making my chocolate is I go to Brazil. So let's go to Sao Paulo. Spelling is not my forte. There we go. And then it takes you around the world to Sao Paulo. You got a little marker there. And I'm going to write down my first step here. So let's say farming, cacao, or spelling, fruit. Is it fruit or a bean? I'm doing my best. And then where's my next step going to be? Let's say they take the coffee from Brazil and they move it to, I wonder if they have little towns. This is where Mr. Tapley was born. Lawrenceville, Oh no, I'll have to go Trenton, New Jersey. There we go. Step 2. Let's say at this stage of the production process, they start processing the coffee for transport. And then you can just keep adding little steps of your global supply chain, and your finished product will look something like this. So this was an example I put together earlier. So this shows the global supply chain of t-shirts. You can't use this though, because I've completely made these cities up. I've made up these, I just picked 4 random cities on the map. So you can see if I look at this, cotton gathered from the farms, A, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So for question 5, you're going to end up with something like this. And you just use this little website here. If you have trouble with this website, you can use other tools to make it happen. I just found this one easy enough to use. It's literally just enter in the city, type in what they do, and you press go, 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 and then eventually you are finished, and you just go steps 3, and then you've got a little link that you can either paste into your answer, or you can just take a screenshot of this and then go Control V into your Google Doc. So you've got a couple of options there. 4 marks there. You get 2 marks for the map itself. So do you have a map that shows a global supply chain? And then you'll get the extra 2 marks there if you actually annotate it. And what that means is not just label it, but you write down the steps that you are labeling. So right now, you can see what I've done under each of these steps is I've added just a little bit of information. I could probably add a bit more information, be a bit more detailed to get full marks there. But that's what you're doing for question 5. 2 more questions. Last question's an easy one though. So 1 more question I'll say. Question 6. Explain how increased globalization has impacted the production or sale of this product. In your response, reference the following terms. And some of these, well, all of these terms should look familiar to you. Specialization, free trade agreements, imports and exports. And then this one we haven't looked at explicitly in class, but it has shown up throughout your textbook, hopefully, which is multinational corporations, which is really just a fancy way of saying a global, so multinational, business. So a business that operates in more than one country. So Apple is they call them MNCs, multinational corporation. So Apple is a multinational corporation. They're global. They operate in many stores around many countries. Nike, McDonald's, etc. Most big businesses are MNCs. So you'll be using those terms in your short answer response here, explaining how globalization, which again, if we want to go find that in our slides, we just go back to, I think it's 25. There we go. You've got some more information there, and it's all connected to some stuff in the textbook as well for more information. How has globalization impacted the production or sale of this product? So has it led to higher production? Has it led to cheaper production? Has it led to more sales, less sales, more diverse sales around the world, etc.? Question 7, give you another freebie question here. Describe an interesting fact you've learned from this research project. Explain your response. So 1 mark for giving me that cheeky fact, 1 mark for telling me what the hell you mean by it. And yeah, that's all you have to do for the economics CAT, guys. So you've got some of these resources hyperlinked into the CAT itself. The research grid has the Cite For Me website there. We've got some support resources down the bottom here. So I'm hoping all this information will be enough to help you smash out this CAT to a higher quality. If you have any questions or concerns about the CAT, please let me know. Depending on how much time we have at school on site and how many of you show up to the class, it'll either be, I think in my little description I've said, yeah, weeks 10 to week 11. I haven't given it a due date in the CAT because I don't know when it will be due. It's dependent on what you guys do in class and how much time we have in class. But I'll talk more about that in week 10 when we're actually in the classroom. And yeah, best of luck, guys. Hope you're well. Looking forward to seeing you back in class, and cheers.